Prejudice can be seen everywhere during daily life, whether it's at work or school, walking down the street, or in your very own house. It affects us all. In this video, we look to examine why people are prejudiced and furthermore, how prejudice can affect the lives of people subjected to it.
The definition of prejudice is a preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. There are many different explanations for why people may be prejudiced towards others. One is that the general population dislikes changes or things that break social and physical patterns. In a study done in 2018 by CNN, it's found that the greater a person's discomfort towards broken patterns in everyday scenes and geometric shapes, the greater this dislike of social norm breakers. These social norm breakers, for example, could be someone who cross-dresses or has dwarfism.
Another reason that people may be prejudiced is that the mind makes quick judgments of new people based on what they already believe in their category. The Association for Psychological Science says that some feel a much stronger need to make quick and firm judgments and decisions in order to reduce ambiguity. This means that someone may be judged negatively based on their skin color or what they wear just because of a past experience a prejudiced person have had.
Lastly, the creator of the Penn State Black History website, Daryl Daisy, argues that prejudice is not hate, but lack of knowledge, ignorance.
Prejudice is not derived from the actual disliking of a person or something about them, but it comes from a lack of understanding of a person or their situation.
These essential reasons for prejudice in our world, however, are only half the puzzle.
It is equally as important to understand how people may be affected by this prejudice. One example of how prejudice can affect others can be seen from a BBC News story on kids with HIV in South Africa.
Virtually all the youngsters are HIV positive.
Good girl.
The good news is that they have the drugs to keep them alive. The bad news is that stigma and shame still persist, pushing many into silence.
They're still very nervous and very embarrassed about coming forward because they will be judged, they will be ridiculed, and they will be maybe rejected.
In fact, these kids are forced to live in shame for no reason other than people's prejudgment of them based on the disease that they have. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad children, all that matters to many others is that they have this disease and furthermore are all seen as the same and bad. Another example of prejudice being shown can be seen in a news story done by The Independent. On a United Airlines flight, a Muslim family was forced to leave the flight for no apparent reason. Other passengers reported that the family did, quote-unquote, nothing wrong. In this clip from the incident, you can see the flight attendant coming through and kicking the family off the plane. The husband continuously asks why they're being kicked off the plane with no valid answer from the flight attendant. Eventually, the pilot comes out and tells the family to leave. The pilot's reasoning for the family to leave is a problem with flight safety. The family was outraged and expressed that their kids were too young to have experienced this. No family of any color or religion should be kicked off a flight for no reason. Being Muslim should not be a motive for one to be treated differently and unfairly. The act was described as shameful, unrighteous, and extremely inconvenient and disrespectful to the family that was just trying to go on vacation. Almost undeniably, the most horrible occurrence of prejudice in history was part of the Holocaust, a time when millions of Jews, Gypsies, and other minorities were wiped out by German Nazis and their allies for no apparent reason. Adolf Hitler put forth an anti-Jewish propaganda, and people ate it up like pie. As adults were believing it, soon were their children of the next generation, those who didn't know any better. Germans were taught to have prejudice against these Jews based on lies, and a few stopped to think if they were actually a problem, when in fact they weren't. Holocaust survivor Leah Shabatsky-Voronoff shares her first-hand story of prejudice against her family during the Holocaust.
And one day, two little boys came in, and they just stood there, and they were looking at my father, just staring at him. And when he said to them, "What are you looking for? Can I help you with something? What are you looking for?" The one said, "Well, we were told when you look a Jew in the eye, you can see the devil in there." He says, "I just wanted to see if that's true." Little 8-year-old kid.
It is clear from Fahrenhoff's experience that the prejudice had gotten so bad during the Holocaust towards Jews that even kids were picking up on it. The false statement that one could see the devil in a Jew's eyes was nothing more than a generalization, an example of prejudice that these kids believed even before knowing Fahrenhoff and her dad at all. In conclusion, prejudice is a result of human nature. Whether it's ignorance leading to prejudice, the disliking of change, or the mind itself making judgments, prejudice is something that's almost impossible to avoid. With that being said, it is entirely possible for one to control what they do with these prejudiced thoughts in order to avoid the overall shame that prejudice can give someone.